Okay, so it's time for us to dive back into our coverage over the X-Men. And now we pick up with X-Men Annual Issue number 3. Now, this issue is really more about Storm, but also Storm kind of being controlled somewhat by another character known as Shinobi Shaw. Now, we have talked a lot about Shinobi Shaw in our previous videos when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men. He is the son of Sebastian Shaw, who was the original leader of the Hellfire Club. Now, for Shinobi Shaw, he had his hand in a lot of different things. The whole Psylocke Mind Swap thing, the Upstart organization, the return of the Hellfire Club. Like, the dudes just have his hands in all different types of things. But also, he was the person who had killed off his father as well. But either way, his new goal is to go after Storm and to hopefully bring Storm over to his side. And really, for Shinobi Shaw, his main goal is to bring up a new inner circle to the Hellfire Club. Now, with that being said, when it comes to the Hellfire Club, we already know that it's an organization where a lot of rich people are able to join because, well, they got the money to join the club, but also there are different branches across the world. But with the entire Hellfire Club organization, you also have the inner circle. Now, the inner circle are a group of people who go out of their way to use their money and power to try to control different things around the world. Their main goal is to, well, dominate the entire world. And so for Shinobi Shaw, his main goal is to bring up a new inner circle. And so as we get into the opening pages for today's storyline, we pick on him playing a game of chess with a character known as Benazir. And I really hope I pronounce her name correctly, but at the same time, she would no longer be around after this storyline. But currently, she's becoming the new White Queen of the whole inner circle group of the Hellfire Club. Now, we also learned that Shinobi Shaw has some big plans for somebody else. And we already know the big plans are for Storm. And so you had a story transition over to Storm. Now, when we do pick up with Storm, it's her right now just flying around the school of Charles Xavier as a way to relax her mind in the early morning, have a good start to her day. Now, when she does go back into the school, she sees what's playing on the TV. It's the news. And right now, the news is reporting about different wars happening across the world in third world countries. Now, for Storm, it really does bother her a lot because she's also hearing that a lot of people are having no choice but to go ahead and leave their homes behind to run over to a different country as a way to get protection from the war happening in their home country. And so for Storm, it really does bother her a lot because she's been an X-Men for a long time, and unfortunately, they haven't done much to help out the entire world, to make the world a better place for all people on Earth. But then she's confronted by Archangel. And we kind of find out that he has some flowers that came from Shinobi Shaw. Now for Storm, she realized that this is Shinobi asking her on a dinner date to come over for some good old dinner. Now for Archangel, this is a problem. And honestly, he has a good reason to be concerned because, well, it is Shinobi Shaw, but also because back in X-Men issue number 29, he was invited to a Hellfire Club party. Now he did arrive. It was also him finding out that he was being asked to join the Hellfire Club inner circle. Now, with all that being said, he was attacked by Shinobi Shaw, but was able to get away. And so for Archangel, it's more of like, dude, Storm, listen, even though it's just a dinner date, you have to be very careful when it comes to Shinobi Shaw. Now, for Storm, this begins the whole idea of she's not going to act like her old self. And the reason why I'm saying that because she is quickly able to snap on Archangel when he does express his concerns about her going on this date with Shinobi Shaw. And she's all like, listen, I'm a grown woman. I can do what I want to do, and honestly, I'll be okay. It was just a matter of seconds where she's her usual self to this angry person who's mad at the idea of people being concerned for her. And the trend does kind of continue because you have Jubilee kind of want to talk to Storm, and Storm tells her to leave me alone. And so we're seeing a more aggressive side of Storm here in the early parts of the storyline. After all of that, later on, you then have Storm walk downstairs after being in her room for maybe a couple of hours. And now it's her kind of showing off her outfit that she plans to wear for the date tonight. Now, for Archangel and Beast, and also Jubilee, they're kind of like, whoa, that outfit is amazing. And of course, you kind of tell Storm loves the idea of all the attention that she is getting. Now, you have Charles Xavier kind of roll up on her, and he's all like, hey, listen, I have some concerns about the idea of you going on this date with Shinobi Shaw because he's somebody that we cannot trust. But like we saw earlier when it came to Archangel expressing his concerns for her going over there with Shinobi Shaw, we saw Storm snap at him. And so now you have Storm snapping at Charles Xavier. And for Charles, he can't believe what Storm is saying to him. But at the same time, he's kind of like, maybe it's her just kind of tired of him being this overbearing parent because technically Storm is a grown woman. And so she leaves. And you have Charles just go into his study to have some alone time. So once she's done kind of chewing off Charles Xavier's head, you didn't have Gambit be the one to take Storm over to the home of Shinobi Shaw to give her a free ride, but also kind of re-establishing that friendship between the two characters. But after all of that, you then have Storm go over to the home of Shinobi Shaw. Now, when she does arrive there, the date begins. And honestly, the date is going well because you now have Shinobi Shaw being able to flirt with Storm. And Storm loves the idea of him flirting with her. Now, you have Shinobi explain why he calls Storm over here. And this is Shinobi, of course, trying to pretend that he is a good person, that he realized that he made the wrong moves while being with the upstart organization or the old inner circle that he was trying to build with the Hellfire Club. But also, when it came to Psylocke using her powers on his mind, it helped him realize all the wrong moves that he had made. And so now his main goal is to bring in a better world for both mutants and the humans race. Now, this is Shinobi playing on the part that's going on with Storm right now in her mind. The whole idea that she's kind of losing belief in the dream of Charles Xavier or his ideas to bring in a better world for both mutants and human race because she's been an X-Men for so long, but nothing is changing. And that is the big problem right there. Nothing is happening. Things are still popping off left and right across the world. And so it's Shinobi saying if she goes out of her way to join the Hellfire Club, be his right-hand woman, then basically, they'll be able to make the right moves behind the scenes. And the reason why, because they have the money. The Hellfire Club is full of people who have a lot of money. If they're able to use that money to help out all mankind across the world, then most likely they could bring in a better world for both mutants and humans. Now for Storm, she's loving what she's hearing right now at the moment. But at the same time, it's still Shinobi Shaw. She gotta be on guard. And she says, listen, I'm gonna go home and think about it. But most likely, I might agree in what you are saying. But right after you have Storm leave, we kind of find out that Shinobi Shaw has somebody else over, and that would be Kandra. Now, we don't know much about Kandra just yet because there's going to be stories down the road that we're going to cover that will kind of help us get a better idea of her character. But for right now, we know two things. One, she has huge connections to Gambit, and two, well, she is an external. An external is a mutant that has the ability of immortality. Now, we kind of find out that this entire plan going on right now could be her doing. And the reason why I'm saying that because for Shinobi, he says, sooner or later, Storm will be on my side. But she says, she'll be on my side. She'll belong to me, just like you do right now. And sooner or later, everyone else will also belong to me as well. But now we jump over to Charles Xavier. Now for Charles, he's kind of wondering like, what's going on with Storm. He wants to actually help her out, but at the same time, he hates the idea of going into her mind without her permission. But on top of that, he's kind of wondering if he's acting like a overprotecting father. And so he wants to back off, but at the same time, the way she was acting earlier, he can tell there's something going on with her. While you have Charles Xavier, kind of wondering what's going on with Storm, you have Storm having a nightmare. Now, this nightmare is really more of playing to the whole idea of maybe she should leave the X-Men and really go ahead and join Shinobi Shaw's side. And the reason why I'm saying that because for Storm, this nightmare is really more about the idea of doctors trying to take away her powers because she could have used her powers as a way to help out other areas across the world. But unfortunately, she did not. And so you now have thousands of people dying out there that could have been saved by her trying to use her powers to help those people survive. And so right now, it's nightmares kind of playing into what Shinobi Shaw is trying to say about the X-Men and Storm. That you guys been out there trying y'all best to bring in a better world, but unfortunately, you guys are getting nowhere. And so with her having that nightmare, she freaks out and she just busts out of her room and flies away. And by the time the other members of the X-Men are able to get into her room, they realize that Storm is gone, but so does Charles Xavier. And so you have Storm run over to Shinobi Shaw. Now, when she does, we learn here what he had done to her. You see, the flowers that she had received earlier, those flowers had some kind of toxin. And with that toxin, it began to change Storm's behavior, but also trying to break her away from what Charles Xavier stands for, what the X-Men has stand for. Because it's Shinobi Shaw saying, it's time for the X-Men to be removed as this group out there trying to help bring in a better world for mutants and humans. It's Shinobi saying the Hellfire Club is going to step in and bring in a better world, but just for mutants alone. Because sooner or later, you're going to have the humans come out of their way to try to kill off the mutant race. So why should we wait? We should go ahead and bring the idea of mutants being the main ruler of the entire world. Now, for Shinobi Shaw, he's not alone. He has other members of the inner circle that he just brought in there right now, being able to help him kind of stop Storm from attacking him, but also the toxin had cut her off from her powers temporarily. So it allows him and his inner circle to take down Storm very easily. Now, there is another reason why you had Shinobi Shaw chosen Storm to be the one to kind of bring over to his side. And the reason why, because, well, she already had those thoughts going on in her mind about the idea that the X-Men are not really being able to achieve any kind of goals at all. And honestly, if you look back at the 1970s, 80s, 90s for X-Men comics, what have the X-Men actually achieved? Like, there's not much you can really say for the X-Men. And so it's him saying, I chose you because I know that you were beginning to doubt the ideas of Charles Xavier, the better idea of a world for both mutants and humans living together in harmony. But you do have Storm being able to finally fight back against Shinobi Shaw. Now, the book does begin to wind down very quickly here because you do have Bishop and also Gambit being able to arrive just in time to help out Storm defeat the different members of the inner circle, but to also kind of defeat Shinobi Shaw as well. Really, it was more Storm saying like, hey, are you ready to die for your cause? And for Shinobi Shaw, he was not ready to die yet. And for Storm, that once again proves that Shinobi is just a boy trying his best to pretend to be a man, which he is not just yet. But either way, you do have the entire crew finally go back home to the school of Charles Xavier. And the book does really end on a good note where you have Storm go over to apologize to Charles Xavier. And for Charles, it's kind of like, listen, I knew there was something wrong with you, and that's why I didn't give up on you. Now, for Storm, she feels bad about the idea that there was even a part of her in her mind that kind of believed that Charles Xavier's ways were no longer working. But for Charles, he says, Everyone has that in them. It's called doubt. You're always kind of doubting different things that you're going through. And those doubts are kind of used as a way to push us forward. And so the book does end with Storm and Charles Xavier being able to hug it out. And that's really it. So this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see you on the next comic book video.